My Family Thinks I'm Crazy, a podcast where I, your host, try to give you some tips on how you can explain all this weird, wild, crazy conspiracy stuff to the people you love most. Because that's what I've been trying to do for the past 10 years with no success.
I've been telling everybody that our government is shady, but every time I do, my family thinks I'm crazy. The hollow earth, UFOs, aliens invading, fluoride in the water, they spray our skies daily. When I talk about these things, they think I'm crazy. There's no escaping anymore the evil that we're facing. Illuminati, mind control, they're sacrificing babies. The end of days, but anyways, my family thinks I'm crazy.
What, they don't want to listen to you?
No, they don't want to listen. They don't want to hear it. They're just like, oh, here we go, Mark. Off again with your...
Mark being Mark again.
Yeah. So, that's the thing about podcasts is when you're on the air, and it's like therapy, If I can't talk to my family about this stuff, I'll talk to you, Matt, and all our listeners.
You always start your own podcast.
Yeah. So who are we talking about today, Matt?
They think that I'm crazy. They really think that I'm crazy. They really think that I'm crazy. My family thinks that I'm crazy.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the My Family Thinks I'm Crazy podcast. I'm your host, Mark Palmer, and on today's show, we spoke with a man who is a psychic, a reader, and a baker. And we got into a lot of very interesting stuff in this excellent conversation with Timothy Hamrah. So enjoy this episode of the My Family Thinks I'm Crazy podcast. Thanks for being here, folks. And remember, you get all the content a week early on our Patreon, and you also get bonus content. We have the Synchromystic Exploration of the Ever-Expanding Now. We have our Library of the Mystagogue, a new series where I recommend books to you guys and tell you why I think you might enjoy reading them. It's a nice way for you to get a synopsis from someone you trust. If you want to share your opinions about the show, share your thoughts, suggestions, maybe you have a guest you'd like to see on the show, go over to podinbox.com/MFTIC or go to patreon.com/MFTIC. Send me a message. Thank you for listening, folks, and enjoy this conversation with Timothy Hamrah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the My Family Thinks I'm Crazy podcast. I'm your host, Mark Palmer, and on today's show, we are joined by someone who I got in touch with via the cyberspace, a person who has a lot of wisdom to share with us over this cyberspace about the ethereal and astral space, a place that him and I both, I think, partake in many different ways. So without further ado, Timothy Hamrah, welcome to the show, my friend. Tell us where we can find your show and your work and everything that the listeners should follow up with you on.
Well, yeah, at this moment, I don't have a podcast, but I am on stereo. I think it's... I'll have to send you what it is, but I can't remember. But that's like kind of how I started my podcasting, is on stereo, just like talking to strangers, doing readings on there. And basically I just save my conversations and post it if they consent to do it. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram. I am the Akashic Hamrah Tarot. You can schedule readings on there. I have my website link on there as well. Also on TikTok, I do some, spiritual videos. Like I just gave my 2 cents on, the energetic, how do you say, forecast of the world for that day. I usually try to keep it with that, but basically I'm mostly on social media like Instagram. So definitely find me there.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think I saw a couple reels the other day that you did. Reels or whatever. I don't know what they're called on Instagram now. There's so many new things, but...
Yeah, totally. And I also bake as well.
Yes,
Is it okay if I plug that?
Yes, go ahead.
My baking account Instagram is Lucky Bear Cakes. And that's where I post all my sweets and treats on a different side of me. So baker by day, mystic by night is my little slogan. So
right, yeah. Wow. And the two meet, I think synchronistically, I worked at a bakery for a while. Not quite the confectionary, like sweets and stuff, but they made European pastries and sort of artisan bread. So Very interesting how the two worlds meet in
Yeah.
multiple ways. Well,
Two worlds collide. Nice.
speaking of this world, when did you enter into this sense of mysticism, and what kind of brought that into your awareness? Was it a young age?
Oh,
Was it
man.
recently? When did this start for you?
I would say really young age. Before I can remember, I just remember it's like the strangest thing, but I would constantly tell my mom that I feel like I'm watching a TV show of my life. Like I leave my body and watch it from a distance. And she just said, "Oh, you just have a wild imagination, whatever." But it just kept on happening. And then I slowly kind of just let it go. Like, oh, that's not normal. Just let me let it go. But I've always been seeing things, seeing shadow people. It was, of course, as a child, it was really scary. But I would say when I really got into it was probably during the Plandemic being shut down. I just really honed my gifts. I had nothing else to do except do that. And of course, there's a lot of stories of people being at home all the time and a lot of activity starts up. I feel like that was for me. I just was pushed to do this. And so I was like, you know what? I'll take this as, as a sign from my guide just to keep it going. And so now I'm just pushing my energy into being a mystical mediumship tarot card kind of dude.
Right on. Wow. So do you think that the isolation of the pandemic brought this sort of solitude that facilitated that mysticism? Because I mean,
Oh, yes.
that sounds very true to what many people experience when they go out into the woods or they go up on a mountain. But they kind of forced us all into solitude this 2020 through 2021. And wow, that's really cool to hear that you made that a constructive time rather than a destructive time, because I'm sure there's a lot of people who can't say that about their time spent at home and whatnot. So what gravitated towards you, because you mentioned having kind of early childhood experiences. Was there something that reminded you in particular of your latent abilities?
Well, I kind of say my whole life I was a little, I guess not off, but I always knew it was there, but I kind of just it was kind of behind me in a way. I wasn't open to it as much, but I always had these type of synchronicities or this time in my life where it's it would always tell me you got to do this. And I was like, no, I'm doing baking, I'm doing this. No, I had no time for that. But yeah, I feel like last year was just you know what, you're not baking no more, just focus on this. So definitely I felt like I was kind of shoved into it. But yeah, I always had this weird thing always happen. Strangers come up to me and just tell me weird things. They'll give me strangers will give me crystals, or they'll tell me that, you're not on the right path. Just strangers come up to me. It's I don't know what you mean. Especially if you don't know what they mean at the time, then probably a year later, it's now I understand what they're talking about. I wasn't on the right path.
And you were
This is not
open or
what I needed to do.
receptive to those messages, right? Do you think that that's part of it for you? It doesn't matter who might have the message, but you're aware that this kind of thing happens to you where people just show up hey, you're not on the right path. They might not be in the same context as you take it. Maybe they were telling you something else, but the way you took it had a pretty, pivotal change or caused an important change, right?
Yeah, I would say it was a slow change. I basically just collected all these pieces throughout my life and just kind of smushed it together. And it's okay, obviously I'm meant to do this, so I'm going to take the time right now and just do it. Because I was just dragging my toes, being a little child, not wanting to leave. That's what I felt like. I felt like I was being pulled by the spirit world, constantly. You got to do this, being pushed, not physically, but spiritually in my dreams, through visions and just seeing weird things that don't make no sense. So I definitely felt them just shaking me to do it, and I was resisting it. I guess that's a way. I was resisting it at first, but now I'm totally accepting it.
Yeah.
And it definitely calmed down. It definitely calmed down a lot after I accepted it. They they don't bother me as much. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you say spirits and you mentioned shadow people, How
yes.
far have those interactions gone? Have there ever been any? I mean, obviously, when you're younger, things like that can be scary just because. But was there anything, looking back, that presented any danger to you, or do you think it was ultimately like part of this growth that you undergone?
That's a good question. I would say probably. I think when I was 12, I was started seeing shadow people like crazy. Like in my bedroom, I just see like like to me as a child, it looked like like the Grim Reaper was flying like on my bedroom ceiling, and I think they're trying to tell me like because I went blind in my left eye, and I wasn't sure if that was it because I started seeing out of this eye too. I was like, well, that's not it, and probably during that process, they're trying to give me a sign to like, hey, you need to go to the doctor, and that's when I actually found out I had a tumor behind my, like basically on my pituitary gland, which is like the all-seeing eye thing. So they basically had to remove it. And it was like kind of weird. Like they're kind of testing me to see how far I would go with that. Like it's kind of scary as a kid, like trying to make sense, trying to tell my parents, like, I don't think it's a medical thing. I think I'm just seeing things. Like I didn't feel no pain, but all of a sudden there was a tumor. And it's like, well, I guess they were trying to tell me spiritually, hey, you need to get this checked before it gets any worse. I was like still like really small, but they got it out. But I feel like that was the first step. And after that, like it just gradually grew. And probably the recent, I would say 5 years, it was like really, really rampant, especially when I moved to Macon, Georgia, which is very historical. I lived in like this historical loft. I mean, as soon as we moved there, I knew there was like energy and whatnot. And it started off like really dark to me, like more like demons, very black and like red. And it was scared, like, the living shit out of me. Is it okay if I curse?
Yeah, please.
Okay. This like scared the fuck out of me. Like, I'm a grown man, and it's like, why is this happening out of nowhere after being, like not happening for a long time? Then all of a sudden it's like ramped up. And I feel like the energy, whatever energy was there, was kind of like manifesting into what it is now. So my theory about shadow people is that they kind of initiate you in a way. They like try to scare you, then see if you still go with it. Because some people try to just block it out if they get scared. But me, I just kept on going. And eventually it was like little demon things to shadow people to more like orbs. And now I see like people. So I feel like it kind of like transitioned that way.
Right.
I hope that makes sense. A lot of people.
Yeah.
Some people don't.
Like
I don't understand what you mean by that.
There was a sort of like process to it where like instead of running away, which would have closed off all the experiences,
Yes.
as you slowly made your way through, you experienced them in like almost levels. Like you made it past the first level. Now you're ready for the second, the third, and the fourth. So
exactly.
When you see the orbs, is it only in like a sort of non-ordinary consciousness, as some might call it, or do you think it happens like just when you're kind of like going about your normal everyday situations?
Let's see. I would say it was more like during like the twilight stage when you were taking a nap in a way, and all of a sudden I'll just like see things. But now I kind of see them like kind of all the time, like especially out of the corner of my eye, I'll see like little like sparkles in a way. And that to me, that means that there's like a spirit around. So if it's on like this side, it's like more like earthbound. Then over here, it's like more ethereal spirit. There's definitely different colors. Like this side, it's like more brown and like muddy. But this side's like really sparkly. There's like glitter in a way. If you see like glitter dust, that's kind of what it looks like to me. But I would say definitely during the twilight stage, during like sleep paralysis, that's when I'll really see them. They'll like be right in my face, but I don't really see them as much. They're more like actual figures in a way, like aliens or just weird creatures.
Right.
I see, which make no sense in my head. So I kind of went from orbs to that. They kind of like transformed to like, okay, you're ready to see us in a way. So they're going to show me their physical. But
now, does
the
interaction stop at like the visual, or is there like a sound, a taste, a feeling?
Yeah.
Like what other senses are, because I know like seeing something, but visceral experience, like experiencing it sounds more true to what you're kind of like this. If it scares you, like there's got to be more than just the sight of it. Am I wrong? Am I off on that?
Yes. Oh no, I totally understand. I definitely get sounds like to me, because I don't really speak their language, because they speak the best way is to speak in like vibration.
Okay.
So I know they're good when the vibration's high. So it sounds just like this like white static noise, but super, super loud where you feel like your ears are going to pop. Then if it's something like, earthbound or negative, it'll be more of like a really low vibration. So I usually just like in my mind, I just like cast those away because obviously they're no good for us. So I accept the more higher vibrations, but yeah, it's weird when I go into that. It's like my sound goes away. I don't hear nothing else around me, but except that vibration, like that you're in an airplane and your ears are about to like pop.
Right.
But I do speak to them, but I don't remember because I've tried talking to other people about it, like who are in this field as the same as me. And they said that you don't remember because you're kind of like semi-unconscious and you're speaking a language. So I need to like learn how to kind of stay in both realms in a way when it happens. Cause I instantly just pull out when I start to like, not accept it in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
crazy. Trust me.
No.
To describe things. And
I understand that feeling of like, you kind of like meet the threshold and there's an apprehension that happens when you become aware of it, where it's like, oh, I can't go further into this. I got to go back to, because you're comfortable in what maybe we can call ordinary consciousness. So when you reach that state of non-ordinary, for lack of a more precise term, it can be, scary and cause you to turn around. I certainly have felt that way during certain psychedelic experiences. Is that at all a part of your experience? Have you ever used any plant medicines to connect with that, or is it completely a sober sort of thing?
Mostly sober. I would like to try psychedelics one day, but I did probably this summer. I did like I forgot what it was, but my sister got me like fucked up like crazy, and I couldn't stay grounded. I tried to stay grounded so hard. I kept on like popping out. And I didn't like that because I felt like I couldn't control myself. So I feel like that's going to happen again. It was just extremely uncomfortable for me. Like I was like trying to stay, like literally holding on to my body. And it's like, they're like, I'll go down. And it's like, it was like kind of like back and forth, like I was like yo-yo. And I was like, I can't do this. So I try not to do any heavy stuff with that, but when I did that, I tried to like give her a reading, but no, I kept on zoning out, like going to different worlds, and our conversation kept on like cycling in a way, like going back in time, then coming back. It was crazy. I didn't like it at all. I personally think that my guide was like, you know what, you don't do this stuff, so I'm just gonna screw with you so you'll learn in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's get into that a little further, because that intrigues me, the concept of a guide. I've used different words for that, but you call it your guide. Is that similar to what I might call my higher self or a higher self, or is it a different?
Yeah, I would say your higher self is actually you, like your physical self, but I guess more enlightened and your ascended self in a way. Like I've actually met my higher self, and it's totally different than my spirit guide.
Okay.
My spirit guide he's a Native American, like a very androgynous looking dude, but he comes in like he could look young and old. He kind of like shifts himself a lot. He always tells me that I have like a whole legion behind me, like basically a whole army of guides. And eventually I will ascend to that level where I can actually use them to do whatever that may come to the future. But trust me, I have met my higher self, and that was pretty scary, that energy. I mean, I could tell you a story about that if you want.
Please, yeah, I'd love to hear about it.
Okay. Yeah, it's insane. So I usually attend these online seances through like Zoom and stuff. And the last one probably was in August I did. And sometimes I get like bored and I'll start just rocking in my chair and I'll kind of just like zone out. And I'll literally walk out my room, walk out my door, go across the street into the woods, walk back. And when I did that, I brought something back, which was my higher self. And just like thinking about it is like giving me like goosebumps right now. But it was on like on my left side, so it was a part of me, and it literally felt like I was standing next to like the tallest building in the world, like that, and just like being next to it, and just feeling that energy. Literally, like my stomach like flipped. Like it was the craziest feeling. And after that I went for like a reading with some friends who do like exchange readings, and they said, yeah, that was your higher self. I was like, that makes sense, because I walked out and walked in by myself, but something else was with me. So obviously when I left my body, I brought it back somehow. But it was weird. Like I was like, when I walked out, I was walking like gently, but walking back, I was like stomping. I could still hear it in my head. I could still feel the stomping, like dun, 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 dun. And I sat down, and I felt this like, electricity through my body once I like grounded myself. And as soon as I opened my eyes, it was like, I could see it, like kind of like through my side vision. Like it was like really tall, dark. It was like dark, but just like super, super tall. I was like, shit. Like if I could ascend to that would be just the most amazing thing, because that power, it just made me just want to like curl up in the ball. I was like, ooh, it was so strong and big. So I feel like all of us can do that. You can do that practice, just walking out, like visualize yourself walking out, visualize yourself looking out your window into your room, and you can actually see who is in the room with you. You can see shadow people. You might see yourself as a different looking person or people around you. So yeah, that's definitely good meditation practice.
Wow, yeah,
for mediumship.
That's the first time I've heard that, and I love that. I'm kind of trying to do it right now, but the idea of like looking through your room window at yourself,
yeah,
and you would see
or
something.
Closet.
Yeah, and you would see something outside of what you're gonna. Because me, I mean, as far as I go in all this stuff, and I love this stuff, I'm like not the most adept at experiencing. Like I've only experienced a certain level of metaphysical or otherworldly types of things, and most of them have been thanks to plant medicine, and the fact that you said you're mostly sober. I think that might be part of why I might be inhibited, is because there's this blockage somehow, and I need to clear out my instrument, so to speak. But that's really interesting. I like that visualization tool to connect with yourself, but also to really like have another, like a bird's eye view almost, or of your actual surroundings, beyond the visual side of things.
Yes. And it is hard to like just to hold it there, because you're trying to hold that vibration. Why I'm still here, I'm still looking at myself through the window, or I could be looking inside your studio. If I can envision a window in your studio, and I could probably see, it's kind of like remote viewing, but not in a way. It's not that complicated. It's more like, I guess, psychic in a way, like kind of using a part of you to leave, like a piece of you. But you have to make sure you call it back. Otherwise it will stay there, and you might get a little sick if you don't, reclaim your energy. So I highly recommend that. If you're going to practice that, just make sure you reclaim your energy that went out.
Right.
Would that maybe be the mental body or emotional body or spiritual body that you asked to leave and come back? Yeah,
I would say that. Yeah, it's probably like astral projection in a way. Okay. But I would say I won't say it's as like crazy where you're traveling the world. It's more like just going outside, or it's kind of like using your mind to envision what your studio looks like. And is there a window? Is there a table with a coffee cup on it? Like stuff like that. You can visualize it, and then all of a sudden it will kind of like change itself into what it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can definitely practice. I'm trying to like make it seem like how it makes sense. Like, okay, let's say I want to envision your desk that you're working at. I could envision what a desk looks like in my head. Okay, there's a computer there. There's probably books there. There's, a pen and a pad. But then all of a sudden, like, more stuff, more details will show up that will be actually what's there
Right.
physically. Yeah. So you kind of like build it like little building blocks until actually what it is.
Well, there's definitely a pen on my desk, so
Yeah.
you nailed
that's
that
more
one. And the computer.
I guess like cold reading, like people call it. I think it's cold reading, where people just like grab stuff that makes sense to everyone.
Now, I want to ask this. Had you received a reading yourself before you gave your first reading, or did you come to it intuitively knowing like I'm a reader, I'm going to read for other people, and this is what I'm learning? Because I feel like I've approached it the opposite way, where like I've gotten a couple readings and that's helped me out, but I've never really tried to do the other side of it where I read for someone else.
Oh yeah, I definitely had to get readings because to me, I was really unsure. Like to me, like in my head before I knew what was like real in a way, I always thought like, oh, Hollywood, it's all spooky ghosts and demons, but it's not like that at all. It's like really plain in a way. People think it's difficult, that you need to like, go into a cave and meditate for like hours, but no, you don't really you can do that if you want to. That's not going to do nothing for you. But me, I went to a few like psychics, or I actually had people like psychics come to me and say, you're psychic, you need to like, tap into that, hone it more. And it's like in my head, it's like, oh, I don't know what to do, blah, blah, blah. So eventually this started a class online, and that really helped me a lot. Like during like the quarantine, that definitely helped me like honing it. But I didn't really know I was, to be honest. People kept on telling me like, yeah, you're a medium, you see dead people, you talk to them. I was like, no, I don't. Like, you just don't remember it. You like block it off. You do, but you just don't remember it. I was like, I guess that would make sense, but like you could say that to anyone. But yeah, after I accepted it, definitely, that's when I started to exchange reading, especially online. That's what we do. We kind of like do like a psychic circle where we just go around circles and exchange readings. I definitely built up my like courage, how do you say, like putting my ego aside and just let my truth come out, like use my voice. I definitely had a throat chakra issue where I definitely held stuff back. That's probably the most important thing I had to go through, is that, because I always felt like I was speaking lies or wasn't being truthful with my readings. So it really depends on who you are. If a chakra is out of balance, that would definitely like not be good for a reading. But I would say like 50-50 in a way. Like I was reading people without even knowing it in a way. Like I would just talk to people at work and be like, oh, so how's your mom? And we'll just start talking and all of a sudden be like, how'd you know this? I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Like something was like come to my head in a way. And like, I didn't realize I was reading people, but I was just having conversations.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like definitely.
That sounds like that sounds like
it.
you've had some skepticism. Like people thought you were like knowing more than you should know, and like you're just innocent, like psychically reading from them, and then they're like, "Is Timothy spying on me?" Like that's what it sounds like you suggested there. But I really resonate with what you said about chakras, because the first or second tarot card reader I had ever met and had a reading from also included within whatever I paid for that day. And she's actually been on my Patreon. I did a show with her a couple months ago. And she did this like chakra clearing, cleansing for my throat chakra. Funny enough, now I'm doing what I'm doing now. And, that was years before I had the jobs that I had, which helped me grow and utilize and really hone in, as you use that term. I love that term, hone in on the skill that is communicating and connecting with your truth. Because I don't think you necessarily need to be as perceptive as a medium to connect with your truth, right? I mean, everyone can connect with their truth and express their voice, whether or not they're taking that path.
True. Very true. Yes. Yeah. And the whole honing thing, I hated hearing that. It's kind of like, I would get it as myself, like being like a cake decorator. If someone came to me like, oh, I want to be a cake decorator, like, okay, you can, but you have to practice.
Right.
Be like, no, I want to know it right now. And then that's kind of how I was. I wanted my third eye open. I want to open now. Because I just wanted to, be that way. But no, it was definitely hard. I mean, looking back at it now, it's like, yes, I went through like so much shit last year, but I feel like stuff is just speeding up so fast. I mean, all this synchronicity and this stuff coming into flourishing. Did I say that right? It's been like so fast, like so fast paced now. It's like everything's like zoom, 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 zoom. Last year was like slow. It's like now I'm like doing readings already, like at like this like a local crystal shop. I'm doing that. And it's just amazing. It's I never thought I would see myself like this last year, like being on your podcast. I was like super excited about that. Like that blew my mind because I listened to you while I decorate cookies and stuff.
Oh, thank
you. This is amazing.
Well, it's a pleasure having you. So weird. I appreciate that. But I love what you're saying because it's resonating with what Tara and I have been sort of dealing and sorting through. Is like, she wants to do this as well. She wants to find her voice and express herself. And the way you said it, it's like, yeah, I mean, I support you if you want to decorate cakes too, but I didn't get here by accident, like you worked hard to get to that. And I think, there's a certain amount of like, I want to do it now. And I try to tell her like, hey, like, I know it seems like it all happened so fast for me, but I've been listening to podcasts for like 4 or 5 years before I even recorded myself, so it is, a process and yeah, thanks for kind of highlighting that. I think that's important. And she's very perceptive, and we use tarot cards pretty frequently now, like to start our day as a sort of gauge for like, the energy of the day. Do you do that as well?
I kind of used to, but I kind of stopped. I was like, now I just kind of look for signs in a way, like a lot of synchronistic signs. I feel like that is my tarot card, like seeing the same number, knowing that I'm on the right path in a way. But I do like tarot readings for other people, but for myself, not really. I usually get like a message in my mind in a way.
Right.
But
well, and to your point, your earlier point about the quickening of the synchronicities, we were just talking with Brandon Thomas earlier on his podcast about that exact same thing. And yeah, it's so, odd to feel like, oh, wow, only a year or so ago, I was just a guy listening to podcasts. And now I'm meeting new people who listen to my podcast and are like super psyched to like be talking to me. It's like a huge 180 from what I was doing a year ago. Like, episode 20 for me was huge. I interviewed the Grimerica show guys. I've been listening to their podcast for a long time. They inspired me a bunch, and it's so just cool. It's kind of surreal, and without going down the podcasting road all the way, I think the quickening, like the amount of talking that goes on in public is very minimal these days, I think, with at least where I live with the masks. And I think like to what we were bringing up before with the isolation is like that leaves room for more psychic energy, I think. Would you agree with that? Because there's less like,
I feel like you could connect with your inner self in a way.
Right.
You do a lot of healing.
Well, and also so many people are like, their face is completely blocked off to you, so you don't even know what they're feeling or thinking. So it's kind of easy to exist in your own world. I that's how I've been feeling. Like, because like people with a mask on, it's like they almost don't exist anymore. Like they don't no offense to them, but when they're wearing a mask and I can only see their eyes, like I don't like connect with them the same way I would have in the past, where like, I used to have a hard time going to this grocery store because I used to work there, so all my past coworkers would want to chat with me and be like, hey Mark, how's it going? And I would spend like an extra 40 minutes there, and now I'm in and out like that, no problem, because everybody's masked up and everybody's got their eyes on what they're doing, and I kind of just, I'm not masked up, but I still just like sort my way through. But I think there is a certain psychic energy that's being facilitated, heightened.
Oh yeah. I definitely feel, well, I was sure like everyone has different opinions on what's going on, but the thing I hate the most is like seeing kids with masks on.
Oh, yeah.
It just makes me want to cry.
It's
Just
a
like
shame.
smothering a child's face is like, why?
And even like the psychological implications of like how that's going to affect them for their whole life. Oh man, that's a tough subject. What's
Yes.
good for, what I've seen on the brighter side is there's a lot of push against masks from that side of it because it's that extreme, like school boards, parents, like certain towns in our state of Connecticut have like unmask our kids, and like call Governor Lamont and tell him how mad you are and all this stuff. And I'm for that. And I think that's really like inspiring to see parents standing up like that and not putting up with it. And I've heard, I'm not a parent, but I've heard a lot of podcasters who have kids say like this past year they've been homeschooling their children, which is like, I think that's a positive no matter what. If you homeschool your kids and you show them how you see the world, like, I don't know. I mean, it's not going to work for every group of parents. It certainly would not have worked for my parents, but but I think, that's something I would probably like to do one day is not, when I have a kid, not put them off to the government schooling to like turn off their psychic abilities.
Teach them the ways of the world, or send them to like an art school or something, where the kid be themselves.
Well, would you say that school hindered your connection with that other realm? Like, being someone who's kind of intuitive, like you mentioned at the beginning, you said like, oh, that's not normal. Cause you had those feelings of like, watching yourself like a movie. I remember feeling that same way with certain dreams when I was younger, but you kind of, when you express that and you share that and you get like the doubt and you get the, condemnation from your peers, you're like, oh, okay, maybe I'll shut that ability down. Is that something that happened through school as well, you think? Or
actually not, because I feel like school is made for to distract us, to like kind of take us out of that physical and really ground us to this earthly realm by doing like earthly things, very mechanical in a way. It definitely separates you from your spirit body, like totally just like rips it apart in a way. But yeah, during that I don't recall anything, but definitely my childhood, it was really hard to remember. I've been told that I was like a walk-in at some time, like a changeling, where it's like when your spirit like gives up and it's like, you know what, fuck this shit. I tap out, like that type of energy. So yeah, I just remember being young, like being a kid, but I felt like that I was trapped in this kid's body, but I was older. Like just, like I felt like I was intelligent in a way, but it was like weird. It's really strange feeling that just being like, 10 years old and being depressed. It's like, well, what kind of kid is depressed when they're 10 years old? I just had like these thoughts that only an older person would have. And it's like really weird. Like, I'm not sure what happened when I was a kid, but it's like really glimpsy, like little glimpse of childhood. Like I'll talk to my sister, my brothers, and be like, oh, remember this? Like, no, not really. And there's so many pictures of me where I look like upset. Like I never smiled. It was like really weird, really strange.
Yeah.
I felt like I kind of stepped out during that time. Like the spirit wasn't having it and they brought in some other child. Yeah. So like it was a mistake or something.
Yeah, I didn't even see that coming. Okay, I get what you're saying now. So you're saying like there was a time where you might have gone as a soul, as a spirit into another place. Somebody took your place and then you came back in with this higher degree of experience for someone because I have a very similar kind of feeling about when I was younger. I remember feeling like, oh wow, why am I thinking about this stuff and everybody else at my age is like obsessed with sports and like these things that don't seem like that challenging on a mental level, and I was just like constantly trying to challenge myself and getting bored from school because it was so, like you put, mechanical and earthly. But you're saying you eventually came back from that sort of, and now, wow, okay, I like that. I'd never heard it quite like that before, but I think that's something that I mean, it almost reminds me of the missing time, not to get too religious, but the missing time in Christ's life, where he went from like 16 to 30 or something, and he just disappeared and went, allegedly to India, allegedly to North America, South America, Africa, everywhere else, and like taught people or learned from people like that. What if we do that on an astral level?
Right. Yeah, I don't totally believe that, because I do have memories of being on the spacecraft when I was a toddler. Like I tell people this, like they believe in aliens, but I recall being on this spacecraft that was like very sterile, very white, and basically a hallway full of like, those glass coolers with the glass doors.
Yeah.
And it was full of like babies. I was just walking down a hall full of babies, and and that's when I kind of came back in a way.
Yeah.
Like maybe I was like a secret space person.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, have you heard any conspiracies?
They probably put the wrong spirit in me. They probably put some grumpy old man, because I was really like grumpy when I was a kid. Like I hated everything.
So maybe there was
the only thing I wanted to do was sleep.
Well, maybe there was a certain amount of like apathy from that realization of being like in a very heightened state of awareness, and then coming back into the physical realm and being like, dude, I was just hanging out on spaceships with aliens who are trafficking babies.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that sounds conspiratorial as heck for a 10-year-old.
It's crazy. I'm not sure if you ever listened to Journey to Truth podcast.
I'll have to put them on the list.
Special, was it Secret Space Program?
Okay.
And aliens that actually had a guest on there who actually described exactly what I saw. Like these little babies. Well, she saw it different, but it's like I see babies in coolers, like little
incubators.
Coolers. And I was a toddler. I remember I was walking, so I was like of age to like be able to walk. It's like burned in my mind. Like literally, it won't go away. Yeah. But yeah, that was definitely something that was crazy when I was listening to the episode, and she had a drawing. She paints her visions. She had a painting. I was like, wow, that is ridiculous. It's basically kind of what I see, but a different concept.
Yeah.
Like hers wasn't so like sanitary. Hers was like little bubbles with babies all like on a wall or something.
Now,
I was like, damn.
I'm curious if so you mentioned previously seeing orbs, typically like in that space between waking up and sleeping. Have you ever seen UFOs, and are they at all in conjunction with those orbs? Because I mean, we've interviewed Ryan Bledsoe, and he talks a lot about both and how they're kind of connected.
Yeah, I've never seen UFOs, no, but I definitely have communicated with aliens. But that's one of the things I don't remember.
Right.
Like I can't. It's like weird. Like I can't remember it, but I feel like they kind of do like a screen over it. Like, no, you were talking to your uncle.
Like an
you're talking about this. It's like, no, I wasn't. They're like, they kind of like screen over it.
Right.
So I can't remember, but I feel like my mind is so strong that it can push back it in front of it. But the language is so different that it's just like noises and and just the way they look is just so like undescribable. Like I had one probably a few weeks ago that it was this like giant being, this like weird alien thing. I had no idea what it was, but as soon as I got into consciousness, it kind of hit itself as like a tree. I was like, why is there a tree in the corner of my room? Then all of a sudden I was like, no, that's not a tree. That's a monster. But my head was like, no, it's a tree, but it wasn't. And I was like, okay. So they kind of like hide behind things.
Yeah, that's reminding me
it's
of.
Weird.
No, it's not that weird, buddy. It's not that weird because my one of my past co-hosts, Chris, a good buddy of mine who lives down in Florida, he works at a zoo, and he had a woman call the zoo up to report a paranormal sighting, right? And the more like his coworkers were like, whatever, no big deal. But he, being my friend, was like, hey, I got to call this lady and find out what the heck she's talking about because I'm interested and so is Mark. So we did like a Patreon episode about it. But why I bring that up is because he mentioned that the being that this woman saw in her backyard camouflage itself into the shape of a tree. So when you said that, I'm like,
Wow.
maybe this woman is not aware that she is a medium, and she's kind of like, she's seeing other realms or otherworldly things, and because she hasn't made that connection, like, oh, I'm seeing something beyond, she's like freaking out and getting really scared, thinking it's like happening in her physical reality.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I feel like our consciousness has to make up something so we understand.
Right.
It's like, oh, well, it looks like a tree, so it must be a tree.
Justify
Because it's so
it.
big and dark and, scaly or whatever it may be.
Right.
Yeah.
So I
It's
think
crazy.
you might have answered this question, but maybe not fully. I'm wondering again, has there ever any like dangerous interactions with these beings? Anything that you felt like, oh wow, I'm glad I avoided that, or that didn't go as I thought it would, or anything that like would present itself in a dangerous way, or has this always been? Because my thought is that it's a way of, kind of like you said, toughening our psychic abilities. It's not that these beings are trying to harm us, it's that they're challenging us to grow. So have you ever had any like situations or brushes with danger while in this realm?
Probably in the beginning when I was being tested, when they're showing themselves as these cliche demons, like hellhounds, like that was scary, but they didn't harm me, but they're like literally like in my bed next to me, just grunting or screaming. Just the way they scream was very like I said, like low vibration.
Right.
And it was just, they kept on like changing themselves to like, what can we do to scare the shit out of him? And they would like move stuff off the wall. Like I had paintings in my room, and they literally like I would open my eyes and a painting will like be over my head, like just like floating. And all of a sudden it'd be like, boop, it'll be like, be gone. I was like, why are they doing this? Like they're really like this rattling. And then it usually happens when I'm by myself. It's crazy. But last week, during my mediumship class, as soon as I logged in, we're doing like these breathing exercises, and instantly this like girl, this really grotesque, like this bloody, she was naked, like on an autopsy table. And I was like, why is she showing me this? And she was like getting up all like creepy. And I was like, okay, what the hell's going on? I was like literally like in my third eye, but on this side, and I couldn't not get it go away. And she literally just like grabbed my heart and was like squeezing it. It was just insane. I died like that. Like I never felt anything like that. That's the most probably physical I've had with like an entity. And I even like commanded my guides, like to do something, but she would not like go. And she slowly like kind of not like attacked, but like attacked everyone in that group. Like everyone got like these symptoms. On me, like I got the worst stomach ache. Like I was literally in the bathroom like all night. I don't know what the hell she did to me, but literally she just like, she had no message. She just wanted to screw with me. But she chose me because I guess the light was the brightest for me, and she just tried to like, okay, let's see what the hell I can do. Like I just had my guard down. I was open. I guess I didn't have enough protection for myself, and she just came in hard. It's like it felt like just a hand on my heart, just like squeezing it. Like not, it's like physical, but it's like weird. Like you just like feel it. Like kind of like when you're reading someone, you can feel their pain in a way like that.
Now it
like
almost,
she was trying to tell me like heartbreak, or
right.
she was angry or something like that, and she was just like shaking me. I was like, that was probably the most scariest. I was really like shaking and like shivering. It was so freaking cold.
Yeah, it almost sounds to me like that these, beings, if we can use that term, that we're interacting with aren't malevolent in the sense that like a lion needs to eat to kill. Like they're more like a pest in the sense of like, if you don't show me the love and attention I am looking for, I'm gonna hurt you in this way I can, in the form of like a stomach ache, or however they can malalign your sort of nervous system or subtle energy bodies. Like it feels more like they're like lashing out for help rather than like trying to harm.
Yeah. And like me, like I could not get her off. And my God was like, oh, like I kept on seeing him like subtle, like in the back, like, oh, I don't know, man. Like putting his hands up, like, dude. It's like she's all you. You have to do this. Like I felt like he took that as an advantage, like to like test me even more in a way, but it was really fucked up.
Do you think that like?
And yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, this it was just the most random thing. Like no one in my class has ever like gone through that before,
Yeah.
and it was just like pretty much like everyone was getting some side effects from it.
Do you think
Like,
that
it was
could have
really,
been?
really strong.
Could it have been like a particular person in the group that magnetized that situation to happen? Do you think it's like the place
It could
that
be
you were
like
in?
I had been attacked before in groups
Mm.
where they could do it like unknowingly. They could just somehow like think something will happen. Like that's happened before, like in my early stages, where I would feel like I have like a hangover, like instantly, like I feel like I need to throw up, like stuff like that. Like that, you need to just kind of like have like incense and crystals. I wear like a little medicine bag to keep me, you know, like keep me here, like not like grounded, but in my physical, so I won't float off
Yeah.
in a way.
I-
But definitely, it takes a lot of practice, and it's definitely a learning lesson. Like not to accept anyone, like be more specific when bringing in spirits. Because this one just
Right.
came, like, hey,
Be
you know what I
more
mean?
cautious.
It's raise hell.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
feel
but you
like
can definitely protect yourself.
there's an element of environment that's very important where like as you just described, you have your crystals, you have your incense, you have a medicine bag. If you could for the audience maybe share some tips on how you cleanse your environment and how you maintain like that
yeah.
protective energy around you.
Yes, well, I definitely have my dragon's blood. This is like my go-to. This is basically what they use in churches, like to. I'm not sure if you ever heard that rumor that they use dragon blood and incense
No.
after every ceremony to like ward off the evil spirits. It makes you wonder why are the evil spirits in that church anyway when I leave the church. But I would definitely look into that. That's a crazy conspiracy. I have my little hawk.
Wow, little is an
Feather.
understatement. That's a very
this is a-
beautiful.
Yeah, I actually found this at the park. It was like literally in the field. Like it was there waiting for me in a way.
yes,
So I
it
basically
was.
just brush my energy every time I come home from work. I'll be like, brush it
Right.
off, use that sound. Just imagine energy coming off of you. I have my celestite crystal, which is like my all around like psychic protection. It helps me kind of get visions and stuff. And that's basically it. Like I use sometimes essential oils if the energy feels a little weird. This is my little medicine bag. It's a tiny little thing. This has a moldavite crystal in it, like really small. That I use that like to manifest and keep me manifesting in a way, you know. And it has been working, so I highly recommend it.
I love it. Yeah, you manifested
it's pretty
this
simple.
awesome
I
conversation.
don't need to chant or nothing like that. So
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you mentioned that your spirit guide is, in all appearance, Native American, because I think
yeah,
that fits in with something that I've kind of theorized, and this might not be true for everybody or anywhere you are, but we're both on the East Coast. All three of us are on the East Coast, and I think there's a certain ancient energy here that just being born here, you don't have to be an indigenous person, no matter what race you are, genealogy, wherever you're from. If you're born here, there is an ancestor from this land that will come and guide you if you
totally.
choose to. And you're an example of that, man. I really appreciate some of the things you've shared with us here. It's a really, really
Appreciate
impactful.
that. And definitely, like I feel like pretty much every kind of like I guess every east side state, like the East Coast, I definitely feel like it does have a lot of Native American history, like like the Trails of Tears. You know, when it came from California over here, because in Macon there are mounds that it's like called the resting mounds, and it's like 3 million years old. It's like it's old, like ancient, and you could climb on top and just lay there, and it's insane. It's the most like beautiful energy, but also like really sad. It makes you feel their pain in a way. And so when I go there, I say like, I'm sorry. I did, sorry about what happened, but thank you for this beautiful land in a way. And I'll make sure I personally take care of it and I won't disrespect it to you.
Wow.
But I definitely try to go there and, just meditate in a way. Well, not like meditate, but just kind of sit there
Yeah.
But it's been too cold and rainy, so I haven't gone there in a while. But my guide is always pushing me, like always putting in my mind, like, you need to go there. Like, go today. But it's raining now. I can't. It's like, so what? Just go.
Yeah. So
But yeah.
do you have any tips for those who are trying to connect with their guide? Any like a road to take? Because I know it's a very personal thing and it manifests for people in different ways. But do you have any tips maybe for those who want to connect with their guide?
I would definitely pay attention to dreams when a person seems like someone you don't know is there and they're always kind of showing up in a way. Or like me, I had to meditate like a lot because I always knew I had a guide like all the time. Like I feel like everyone does. Like, I knew I had them. I thought I was like a family member, but it wasn't. I just had to meditate until eventually I saw like this Native American dude and it was like really clear. And he kept on saying his name. His name is Shasha. He kept on saying Shasha, Shasha, like over and over, like chanting it. And I went to Google it and I was like, okay, so I think it means like, what's that mean? Oh my God, he's going to be so mad at me. I think it's like Redfoot or something like that, like Shasha. And it was actually a real tribe. Like there were Shasha like in Macon, Georgia. And he's telling me like, you're here for a reason because it is sacred lands. Like this is why you're kind of like pushed here in a way, even though you may not like it here, but there's a reason why. And eventually I'll find out. But the whole like getting guides, I feel like they show themselves when you're ready in a way. If you're not ready, they're not going to show them because I hardly ever see them. I can mostly feel them or kind of hear them in a way, but definitely if I really need them, like during readings and something happens, like, okay, just like, you know, do something and I'll like kind of see them out of like the corner of my eyes in a way that's very subtle. But yeah, like some people will see like they're always there with them, like actual person. But me, it's like I feel like my life is like too chaotic to actually have that happen to me. There's no way I could go to work and have, you know, my guy following me around everywhere. But yeah, just it's weird. Like it just happened to me. Like I just meditate on it. Actually, I'm not sure if you met Corey Sharman. Sharman?
Yeah,
that's
Lindsay.
her name. Yeah, from Rogue Ways. Yeah, she's the one who I talked to her about like meditation, and she gave me a throat chakra clearing. And when I was doing that, that's kind of when it happens. That's kind of when I met him. So I definitely, chakra work is probably the most important because you have to basically align your spirit self to meet another spirit in a way. So nothing can really be really out of whack. So that's probably my first recommendation is chakra work because you have to work on yourself before you can, like, you know, I guess help other people or see your guide. Hopefully that makes sense. I mean, I know I'm
you're making sense.
I feel like it's different for everyone. I really thought it was going to be something more like magical, like I'll be in the woods and he would pop out somewhere like, hey, how you doing? But no, it was like just in my mind I saw him.
Right.
Yeah.
Very subtle and very well said, man. I think that you did do a great job of describing it. If anything, I think it shows how important having faith in yourself and trusting yourself that you are actually seeing what you're seeing or feeling what you're feeling.
Yes.
And like that's part of connecting with the guide, having that confidence to know that you are worthy of being guided and your life is important and you do have a unique gift to offer this world. And I think our guides can help us give more of ourselves and make the world in turn a better place. And unfortunately, so many people aren't on that wavelength that I think there's a lot of guides looking for a new student. So if you're out there and you're like, why don't I have a guide? I don't think there's any lacking of guides. If anything,
or
there's an
maybe
abundance.
you don't need one at that time, too.
True.
Maybe you're on the right track. And I feel like if you do ask them sincerely, if you're having an issue with your life, I'm sure they will help. But sometimes you don't even notice. It could be the smallest little thing, like, you know, let's say like you're late to work and you'll ask them, please help me get to work on time, and all the lights will be green, like something like that, like very subtle that people don't really see.
Right.
But also like I always like, you know, not like pray to them, but I always, you know, acknowledge them in a way. even with my archangel, I acknowledge my archangel all the time. So definitely, you don't have to be religious to like believe in angels, but I definitely believe in them as like light beings, not with wings and stuff, not like that, but it's more like energy.
Right.
Yeah.
Angels.
Definitely.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Have you had any sort of experiences with angels that stand out to you?
Yes. I'm trying to think. Probably. Well, my archangel is Archangel Jeremiel, which is like, I think I always forget his meaning, but damn, I'm horrible. I'm so unloyal. But yeah, he's kind of like the archangel of like psychic gifts, and also the archangel like Scorpio. So he's like kind of my sign's archangel. So I definitely attached to him, and he's purple, like his purple light, which I love purple. So I feel like it was kind of like very synchronistic for me to like kind of honor him. But usually he comes to me in dreams, but I definitely have seen, I guess I'll say like him. I'm not really sure I want to, you know, whatever it is, but I definitely have seen them where they're like these rainbow orbs. Like it's just like pulsating rainbows, like a prism. And I remember sleeping and I woke up and it was just above me, and it's literally, I saw it move. And it just kind of just got smaller and smaller, and boop, then disappeared. I was like, and then all of a sudden I just saw like feathers, like white feathers falling down. I was like, okay, it's definitely a sign from him. Or it could just be another angel, like a loved one on the other side, just give me a sign of this like peace and love. I never really saw him, because I feel like if I did, it'll definitely be something really strong, especially if it's an archangel. I can only imagine how that would be, because they're supposed to be really intense, and I feel like I would just like probably go crazy if I saw it.
Yeah.
Like I heard like stories, people seeing archangels, and it's like it's the most beautiful but most terrifying thing ever.
Yeah.
So who knows, maybe one day I will, but I've definitely seen like signs from them, but I haven't physically seen them.
Right. Now you mentioned that you're a Scorpio. I imagine your birthday either just passed or is coming up. Which one's the case?
Yes, coming up. It's November 19th.
Right on. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
next, 2 weeks, I guess.
Full moon's on that day too.
Yeah.
A full moon, really?
Full moon? Yeah, I think so. So that'll be
What? Uh-oh.
Does astrology play into how you read when you do your readings?
Not really. I used to be into it. But I kind of just like, no, that's not for me. It's too much stuff. But I believe it totally, because I would feel that it would. But I don't let it kind of control my life. Like, you know, like Mercury retrograde. Like, I don't own it. I don't want to own it. Like, why would I want chaos in my life? It's like, no, I don't believe that. No. But I do like read my horoscopes and stuff, and I feel like it can be a little cheesy. Like anyone can, you know, own it. Basically, like any horoscope can be for any sign in a way. But
I hear what you're saying. Yeah, like it's very subjective in a lot of ways.
Yeah, but I can definitely pick up on energy. Like let's say you're a Taurus, I definitely pick up on their characteristics and energy. Like, oh, are you a Taurus because you're like this and that? It's like, yeah, I am. I definitely use that a lot, because I feel like because it's such a big energy, like globally or like consciously for everyone, like a global consciousness that everyone kind of believes in it. So it kind of does exist in a way.
Yeah, there's definitely a universal aspect to it for sure.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't use it in my practice or nothing.
Have you ever experienced any dark forces during any of these experiences you've had?
Yeah, I definitely have had that, where I felt like I was being attacked in my dreams by like an unknown energy. And when I wake up, it'll kind of like be there in the corner, like lurking. But yeah, what I do, I kind of cast the light in a way. And I say like, if you're not of the light, you're not welcome here. And if they are the light, they would present themselves. They have no other choice but to present themselves as what they are. And if they're not, then they have to go. And you can tell them like, present yourself to me. You're in my space. You're in my world, so present yourself, because you have total control of them. They can't harm you at all. They can't touch you. I don't think they can possess you. I don't really believe in that, unless you actually open yourself up to that, like ask them to, but I'm sure they can. But I wouldn't recommend that. But yeah, you have total control over it. Like, don't be scared, because fear will just make it stronger. Trust me, I had this closet over here that I can't, well, I'm not supposed to acknowledge it, but there was an entity in there. And every time I acknowledged it, it would just get stronger and like more powerful, where it was able to open the door. Like it'll be like all the time. Every time I do like a session or I'm meditating, the door would like slowly open. So I had to like go in there and cleanse it. I have a crystal in there. So I don't acknowledge it at all. I talk to it as a past thing. Right. So I would suggest not acknowledging it. Maybe before you go to sleep, present a question like, can you show me who you are? Because it could be loved ones trying to connect with you, because they also come in as shadows, because your third eye isn't really fully open to see them as they are. So you kind of it's kind of like when you wake up in the morning and all you see is like shadows in a way. It's like that, because your third eye isn't fully open. But if you actually, because I feel like once you see shadow people, you're like all like you ultimately like think like, oh no, it's evil. Because I feel like in Hollywood it's portrayed that way. They want you to be scared of them, so you don't really know what your higher power is. It's because I've done remote viewing before, and people can see you as a shadow, like, because they can't really see you in a way. That it's just that you need to find that light in a way, because we are born in darkness and we slowly grow to the light, like you said, like a tree, just spread your branches out. Yeah. Well,
Timothy, I want to thank you. I really appreciate the conversation we've had, because you've touched on a lot of things that are relevant to Tara and I's recent, goings-ons. And also we're both bakers in a way. So please, tell us where we can find all those really cool cakes and muffins and all the other things that you're baking over
muffins,
there.
Yeah, right.
No muffins? Well, I just... Now he hates me, guys.
Well, yeah, it's fine. Well, yeah, it's Lucky Bear Cakes on Instagram. So LUCKY Bear BEAR Cakes CAKES.
Is there is there animosity towards muffins? Are you like one of these bakers who's like, we only do cakes, muffins, or anyone makes muffins are posers?
No. I never made muffins before. Like me, I'm more like decorative things. I do birthday cakes, decorated cookies. Those pretty cookies that you don't want to eat. That's what I specialize in. Beautiful. Like very artsy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been doing that for like 20 years now. And I actually just quit my job so I could pursue my mediumship. So
wow, okay.
I'm on the fast track to that. I mean, that's been like nonstop for me. Like,
yeah. So tell us where we can sign up for a reading and get in touch with you. Obviously, you have social media you can plug, and so people can follow you.
No, yeah, we're fine. Yeah, so the Instagram is the Akashic, so AKASHIC, Hamrah, HAMRAH, Tarot, TAROT, and that's Instagram. And you could click the link for my website, and you could schedule a reading there, or you could DM me if you want. You could DM me some nudes, that's fine. I enjoy that as well. But yeah, I am totally open. And I would love to talk again about conspiracies, because I've been on some psychic journeys where I've seen some shit and it's like, okay, everything's a fucking lie. Yeah.
Right on. Yeah, I definitely want to have you back on for a conspiracy conversation. I'm sure we can figure something out.
Yeah, because I had no one to talk to about it. Like my husband's like, I'm not hearing that. No. You're a liar. It's like, no, trust me, I've seen it.
So then it's fair to say that your family thinks you're crazy too then.
Yes, extremely crazy, especially when it comes to aliens and the government just lying to us constantly. I mean, how can you not see it now?
So he doesn't he doesn't see it all at any of it?
No, not really.
Oh.
Yeah, we don't talk about that type of thing.
What about the mediumship stuff though? Is he
Oh yeah, he's totally for that. He loves that because it makes me happy, so he's happy. But when it gets to conspiracies, because it can be very sad. It kind of brings you down a lot. Like, oh my God, everything's a lie. They're trying to kill us all the time. And it's it can make you upset. And so I just try to have a balance.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I just love conspiracies. It's very entertaining. and I love listening to your podcast. And Tinfoil
thank
Hat
you.
is just like insane. Yeah, and this is the best. Like decorating, you know, Mickey Mouse cookies and learning about adrenochrome and stuff.
I love it, man. Well, Timothy, thank you so
Thank you so much, Matt.
Thank
Tara.
you. Thank you. And
Thank
and
you.
thank you for listening to the My Family Thinks I'm Crazy podcast. Enjoy the
Totally.
moment wherever you are in the now.